Yo, what is up? Welcome to Ninja Geek Games. With Essen just around the corner, this means I've not got long until I'm shoulder to shoulder with other tabletop gamers hunting down the latest hotness in games and drinking strong beer in steins. I'm very excited to be going this year as this is just my second attendance. My first was last year and I can tell you I was not properly prepared. Man, is it busy. I was completely overwhelmed with the massive bodies walking in unison like some undead horde filtering through the halls. Seriously, those aisles were like slipstreams where once in, you'd be carried like those turtles from Finding Nemo and somehow pop out in another hall and all your friends were gone. But luckily, I only have one friend. Anyway, in this video, I'm going to discuss the top 10 games that I'm most excited to buy, play and touch. And some of these have already been pre-ordered. Arx has been on Board Game Geek's hot list top spot for a while, so I'm looking forward to taking a closer look where it seems to have a mix of mechanics. During play, each player has a hand of trick cards where one is selected as the lead, and these list actions that can be taken. Others then get to play cards based on what the lead card was, and then this dictates the actions that they can take. This includes moving around the board of which you own ships and agents, gaining resources or construction. However, you can choose to play a card face down and take the same action as the lead player. You with me? I like the fact it seems a very reactive game where you even need to change tact based on the ambitions that are set. Will this ruin your turn if you draw poorly? I'm not sure, hence why this is sitting at the lower end of my list. The ambitions are like objectives that you all need to race to achieve for points, and there's some custom dice-based combat that seems pretty quick and simple to resolve, so it looks to be a fast-paced game with some area control. The artwork looks awesome, especially on some of the cards, and the components look great, but I'm not really into trick-taking games, so do want to get a good look at this to see what level it involves. Next we have Daitoshi from Devere that looks intriguing. At the last two conventions that I've been to, I've bought the White Castle and Sand, so I'm looking for the hat trick. In Daitoshi, the board is made up of these curved tiles that you'll move your workers around to carry out actions. You're trying to build a city, and as it gets developed, it looks as though the action tiles expand, providing more areas for your workers. As you do this, unfortunately, you'll need to exploit the land to gain workers, and then have these natives come and work for you. You get to create unique inventions on your board that you can make use of as an action, but then so do other players, just not as well. What's cool here is that the further you move your worker on the city action track through the various segments, you'll need to spend resources, so you need to make sure those actions are worth it. These actions have varying costs that can be blocked by other players, but do allow you to place meeples of the natives who work for you, but only if you've exploited their homeland, and each section of the city can be electrified for big benefits. It looks fairly light in rules, and I'm okay with that, and the artwork is a bit quirky for my likes, but it does look to be a bit of a thinker. At 8 is the mighty Ironwood from Mindclash Games. This would normally sit much higher on the list, but I've already played this at UK Games Expo, and now I'm looking forward to picking up my pre-ordered copy. This is a highly asymmetric, cards-driven two-player game where each of you controls a different faction with a unique pre-constructed deck of cards. Whether you're the colossal ironclad or the nimble woodwalkers, the goal of the game is different between each of the factions. The ironclad are looking to construct forges by mining crystals and get control of golems and mechs, whereas the woodwalkers must locate totems on the board and take them deep into the forest. I played this with Mark Dainty from Not Board Gaming and got my ass handed to me, but I was very surprised by how light the rules were, yet the game still required a great deal of strategy and depth. You will have a number of cards to play from hand, and once played they're gone, so you have some decisions to make on which will be used for abilities or combat, which has a great little mechanic. You simply play a card from hand and compare the damage and defense values. You then calculate dominance based on any remaining units, but note that the other cards in play can affect these numbers. What I also like is that you can't really have a dud hand because there are a couple of cards that once played go back to hand that have basic move and attack actions, so you can always do something. What's more, all the ironclad components are metal and all the woodwalkers are wood, which is a great touch. Good thing about this is that there's a solo mode, and once out of the box you should be able to be playing this in no time at all. At number 7 is Galileo Galilei, where you take on the role of the famous astronomer, discovering new planets, unknown star systems, and making scientific breakthroughs. The game has a great telescope board for actions that you can move a number of spaces to select the action that you want to take. From this, you then take the action tile and then slide it back along the telescope track, so the order of tiles will change for the next turn. You can observe the stars and planets represented by a variety of cards, where you can trade die. That does include pooling them and adding value, but these die can be manipulated by comets that you can put out onto the board area. The game also comes with these university tracks that you can move up and gain immediate rewards, and they also affect the endgame scoring. There's another clever little tool where you can upgrade your telescope action tiles to more powerful versions, and there are other actions that allow you to move tokens around your board. Overall, it looks pretty astronomical. Shackleton Base is another possible must-have for me, and is a construct built within the crater of the moon. Yes, I know it's available now, but I'm allowed by the wife to buy this at Essen. Boasting replayability with varied cooperation selected at setup that provide different actions, scoring and projects along the way. We have worker placement, drafting phases for shuttle tiles, and actions to include astronaut deployment, resource collection, and this is done with meeples of different colour. You also get to fund projects that provide cheeky bonuses and construct buildings. The drafting of your shuttles is what provides you with astronauts for your turn, so you may need to think about what you want to do or be able to adapt quickly. These astronauts are better at specific actions but can be used for secondary-like actions, but these aren't as efficient if you cannot use the worker of the correct colour. There's a nice mechanic for competing against other players to get astronauts back to your base by having the majority in the sector of a board in an area control element that provides some bonuses. I don't think this is the best looking game that I'll be discussing in this video, but I really like the theme, so I'm happy to take a closer look. Well, it wouldn't be keeping with tradition if I didn't pick up an Uwe Rosenberg title at Essen. Last year it was the Crunchy Plantanubo, which is excellent, and now I'm quite tempted by Black Forest. Firstly, I noticed this at great distance because it looks so aesthetically pleasing, and it has these nice rotating resource styles that are pretty cool, and I'm a sucker for moving parts. Now, it has something to do with glass making within the Black Forest, where you'll be moving around villages to visit tradespeople converting resources in order to construct buildings. Now, these villages are represented by areas on the board that have a number of randomly placed tradesmen's tiles within. The rules seem fairly light compared to previous games, which is great as it means it could be easier for me to get newer players to play. You each get an awesome looking resource style with areas for manufacturing glass and another for provisions. As you gain resources, you move its token to a section within the dial, and this may prompt its movement. Doing so immediately reduces the volume of the resources as well as showing you the quantity of the product that you've made, and it's pretty clever. You also get to make use of a domain that houses your glass hut, a few ponds and areas for wheat fields that you can harvest and gain board extensions. There is a huge building board with like 20 odd tiles, as well as a smaller one for livestock and glass and another one for large buildings. So as I like these thinky crunchy puzzles, I'm really excited about this one. At number 4 we have a teeny tiny expansion, sort of. The White Castle was one of my favourite games played in 2024, and I also bought this at Essen. This year we have its expansion Matcha that introduces a tea room and an extra action each turn, which is great as the game was pretty tight in the first instance. I can't get enough of this game, a pure game of efficiency trying to get the most out of each turn. If I take this die, I can take this action, get some money and a resource, and then spend them here to take this action that will give me victory points later. It's just so rewarding. Matcha has an extension to the main board that includes the addition of another bridge and worker dice, as well as a new clan member, the geisha. Due to this, we have updated player boards with extra resources for making tea. There are more tokens and cards to add to the areas of the main board representing the actions within that tea garden. Now, some of the actions taken within the tea room let you gain the bonuses from 2 cards aligned in a row and add geishas that can be moved around to claim other bonuses from lilies. To me, it looks as though for those that just wanted a little bit more from the White Castle will get exactly what they want, and this is a must buy for me. Next up is Civolution, a fairly heavy Euro with loads of pieces and colourful boards. Set in the future, you're a student majoring in civilization and your exams are taken as a computer simulation rather than a written paper. The better the civilization, the better the grade. Simple. The game has a really cool board for tracking the game phases. This includes a scoring area that reminds me a bit of the end of round score phase from Gaia Project, as the tokens that provide points are drawn randomly and affect each round or era. There are also many other ways to score points, so you're going to have a lot going on, and I like that. Each player board has a Tetris-like area that can house cards at different levels and has game tiles slotted into the various areas. Every era is partially controlled by one of many event cards that dictates weather and sets objectives, for example. To make the game bigger, they've included a huge map filled with different territories to include swamps, fields and water that provide raw materials. Again, the game seems a huge complex Euro with many moving parts, and I'm really looking forward to this. Okay, we're nearly there. Next is SETI, which stands for the Search for Extraterrestrials and Intelligence. This is a 1 to 4 player Eurogame from Czech Games Edition. You get to explore planets and moons, collect resources from the surface, or spy on other races and bring that information home. From this, you're then able to upgrade equipment to essentially do things better. The game comes with a huge set of action cards that can be used in various ways, and actions include launching probes, sending signals, processing data, and playing the cards. The board and components look absolutely amazing, and from the outside it looks to have a nice little engine and a great deal of replay value. This is partially supported by the fact that you only use 2 of the 5 alien species in the game and they're not known until later during play. I'm happy this sits on the heavy side of Euro and prompts forward thinking, as some action cards can be played that have an initial effect and then another that occurs later in the game. This delay represents data coming back to Earth, for example, and is recorded on the victory point tracker as a reminder. There are also some nice bonuses for studying in certain areas that are awarded to the player with the most tokens present, so the game can be seen as quite competitive. As you start getting resources from data, these can be used to fill your player boards time and again like a reusable engine. This unveils the alien race that adds another tech-like board to play. The game appears to have far more going on than I can condense into this short vid, so I've already pre-ordered it. What I've noticed is that a lot of games on my hot list are space themed, and the next is no exception. Gaia Project is probably my favourite Euro game ever, an elegant engine builder that rewards careful planning with a shed load of actions from just one turn and a great mechanic for generating power. Well, after many years of waiting, and far too long in my opinion, we finally have an expansion. The Lost Fleet sits at the top of my Essen 2024 hot list. It promises 4 new factions to include Space Giants, which is probably the best faction name out there, and some board edge tiles, as well as balancing of the base game faction through income and starting resources. The expansion brings in more tech and scoring tiles to incorporate the items we'll find in the box and 2 new planet types. The Lost Fleet map tiles come with their own beautiful looking boards that in turn are explored with little player shuttles. Some of the new factions have interesting setups, and if you thought the base game was a bit of a mind melt at times, this looks to go into overdrive with just a ton of content, and I'll certainly be coming home with this. If you are looking to find out more about the Lost Fleet, then head over to Gaming Rules channel for a full playthrough. Thanks for watching, and if you see me there, feel free to come over for a chat. I'll also be at the meet and greet on Saturday afternoon at 3 PM, along with Not Board Gaming, Whose Turn Is It Anyway, The Broken Meeple, Slicker Drips and Gaming Rules. So you can always meet them if you don't want to see me, but I'm happy to play a game. See you there. Cheers.